TLC campus?
I have a couple of months.
Okay.
I was there this morning first thing.
Okay, we're going to get meeting of the Waukegan Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Anderson? Bill?
Here.
Griffin?
Here.
Grimes?
Here.
Haug?
Here.
Hintz?
Here.
Rivera?
Here.
Rodriguez?
Here, we do have a quorum. The only member not present is Commissioner Anderson, and she did notify us that she had a trip planned before this meeting was scheduled for this date, so she will not be here for that reason. Before we get started, I would just like to say a few words. I just found out today that, well, I'm going to wait a couple, I'm going to let you all have a chance to just make sure you've seen it. The changes were actually at the end of page 3 and the beginning of page 4. It's that last paragraph on page 3. Are we all set? Do we have a motion?
Chair, my apologies. If I can just clarify for the audience, the changes were a brief addition of, or a small addition of language concerning item 2677. The reason why it was held over from last meeting to today's meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
I'll make a motion for that.
Motion by Commissioner Bill to approve minutes, second by Commissioner Grimes. Any further discussion on the motion, comments, corrections, changes to the minutes? If not, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Haug?
I have to abstain. I was absent as well.
Rivera?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes, motion carries, minutes are approved. Okay, next item is audience time.
Necessarily the right if it was, permitted. But I do understand, that was when this big property was a hotel. When it was a hotel, when it catered to weddings, when it catered to private events. A nightclub in there, obviously not what I would prefer, but it was there before, even when this wasn't a residential neighborhood. Primarily was when that was there. The Cove closed down, and then after, too. But Planning and Zoning in the city of Waukegan took that, what used to be a hotel, and has now approved it for it to become assisted living. This is all within the same building, it's in the same parking lot, with the same, and although mixed use is a popular thing that is happening in today's time, this type of mixed use where you have an event that's open to the public until 2 a.m., sharing a parking lot, sharing a community, best welfare of those residents, of the residents in the rest of the community as well. So I am here again to speak on that regard. The letter that I sent also did state my concern as to how the property is being maintained. As my letter states, I was out to dinner one night with somebody, and we were standing outside chit-chatting, and cook them to get out. I heard that that statement that I made on the letter was regarded as non-truthful, but I on the record that I was there. Alderman who can sit there and support my statement. They're talking, and somebody standing inside. We had to call the fire department. The fire department came out, opened the Knox box, used the Knox box keys, an insane amount of Knox box keys that were in there, and it took a very long time for them to find the working key, and it wasn't even a working key to the door that we were standing at, which is one of the egress doors for Tavern and Table. The fact that Tavern has out, which is also from Encore, they're often on a knocked over. There's not much care for the property. Put up on the big are also temporary signs that have been used with push pins on there. So there's general maintenance to actually invest in this for the proper betterment and the welfare are just not there. I have a background in economic development. I work in community economic development now. I understand all seek to have. I understand the different sorts that we want, but as planning and zoning, the primary concern, really look at this and just if there's an issue, you can follow up and we know who was there. At this point, they're seeking a contingency permit. When I read what staff Thomas Milliard wrote on page of his approval and recommendations, says that he treated like a nightclub. So first round, and then wanted to mirror what Crazy Place has on downtown. Crazy Place is actually limited to to have the ability to charge. It does not have that. So at this point, what Encore is seeking is a nightclub, which is open until 2 a.m., unlike the private events, which have to be closed by 10 p.m. So again, I would like for you, as a commission, to kind of really evaluate what it is that's being put here in this specific location. It still remained a hotel. I get it. I support it. It makes sense. You want a nightclub, you get to rent a room afterwards. It totally makes sense. But at this point, we're talking about a vulnerable community that is shared with a club space where you have known, understand correct. It was said that when the concern was brought up that this would be similar to the Cove, which had place, and they weren't going to let that. I don't know how you stop people when it's you're not doing any sort of personal checks to get them in there. They're not. Look at, oh, okay, we're going to close it at 10 p.m. and it's an event, and we'll charge minimum amount or only sell a few tickets. Kind of revert to a nightclub that goes till 2 a.m. The usage as permitted with states in our city. Again, I would just is written what is recommended. There was no conditions on this conditional use permit that's been submitted by staff that would regulate to the betterment of the assisted living individuals assisted. Again, I'm going to go back to at this point we want to share a parking lot, we're going to share a building, and I just don't think that that's in the best of our neighbors.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Vukovic.
Hi, good evening. Ray Vukovic was the conditional use permit at Washington and Edison Court. Passed it, and then the city council has since passed it. And I was involved in the original conditional use permit 30 years ago. The one thing that I hope you've got the one condition about paving the west side of court of Lake. There's only about left in this season, and I hope that that the staff make sure that there's a contract in place, if not for this year, as soon as the batching plants open in the spring. So, but the thing that concerns me about that particular property, yesterday I drove past, and immediately behind that building on the property, adjacent to a single-family residence, is a huge semi-trailer that's been parked there. And there were tires strewn back. So they talk in this conditional use about a storage facility for tires. Well, I certainly hope that's not the storage facility. That's enough for that particular one. You go up into the next block, and I don't believe that the west side of the street, the county right-of-way, is zoned for either boat storage or a junkyard. Not sure exactly what it is, but there's been an abandoned boat that's been right there on the right-of-way, for at least 6 weeks. 6 or 8 weeks, visible to the world, still sitting there. In the last 2 weeks, a second boat has now shown up there. This is right in the area where the high school student was shot yesterday. You've got the The cars across the street, they're parked there. A lot of them don't have license plates. They're wrecks. There's been couches that sat there for weeks on end. So, you know, somebody from here needs to drive down that street. That's a gateway. This board has talked about Washington Street being a gateway. Well, that area there along Edison Court, it's a shame. And I would hope that that gets enforced. Sad because they're encroaching on county property. So, thank you.
Thank you. Please write your name on the pad. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, moving on to the agenda. Old business. We have an item in old business, item 4.1, zoning calendar 2677, which is dependent upon zoning calendar number 2680 in new business being passed. So how do we do this? Do we need to have a vote to change the order that we handle these?
No, Chair, you can make that, that determination on your own.
Okay.
Just hold it over until after new business.
Okay, so we'll just hold over old business until new business is
Until the
concluded?
completion, yes.
Okay. All right, that's all right with everybody? No objections? Okay, good. Getting into new business, item 5.1, zoning calendar 2675. This is the one that was held over from last time, isn't it? Conditional use permit for private school. Okay, this is a request by the petitioner Janelle Y. Love and Iglesia Bautista Manuel for a conditional use permit for a private school at 1300 West 10th Street. Who is going to be presenting? Okay, please come forward. And I would like to swear you in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please state your name and your affiliation to project, and also please write your name on the pad when you have a chance, okay?
I can't do two things at once. Let me write my name first.
That's all right. One thing at a time.
Commission, thank you for having us. I have a couple sheets in case this is helpful. You guys can pass it down if that'd be helpful. My name is Mike Stanczyk. I'm the founder of Inheritance Academy, and I'm here with Janelle Love, who acts as the chairperson of the board of directors. So what we're setting out to do is to launch a classical Christian school, which would be available to kids with limited means in the area. And so our intention is to open school in the fall of 2023. We'll be starting with kindergarten through second grade with the school this time and the kind of fundraising effort that has to be behind it. We're going to start small and grow slow. So we'll start kindergarten, second grade, and then grow the school one grade each year. So we mentioned the goal of the school being a K through 12 classical Christian school. So we'll start with a staff of probably 4 to 5 people, with about 40 kids between those 3 grades. And then, you know, I'm not sure what will be helpful for the commission or not, but you know, this is a kind of education that at present is absent from Waukegan. So classical education, there's a lot to it, but I'll summarize it. The terms I'll use to summarize it will be that it's a holistic, empowering pedagogy with a proven record. So it's holistic. We mean that it sort of speaks to the whole person. So there's an emphasis on the humanities, lots of original source material interaction, lots of emphasis on formal logic and critical reasoning. So it's a holistic education. It's also empowering. What I mean by that is that it instills the skills necessary
Okay, thank you.
I kind of try to summarize, ancient Greeks.
You're talking about Latin and classical Greek?
Enroll, I guess. Yeah. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Else here who would like to speak out either in support?
Overall, maintain good communication with fire commission, security, or just keep proper security.
Any questions? All right. Any other comments, questions by? Approval. For a Iglesia Bautista Emmanuel for a conditional use permit for private school at 1300 West 10th Street. Next step is going to be Isabel. The next step. Date is that Monday. Time to be determined, so you with city staff. Okay? Thank you very much and good luck with your project. Okay. Next item, zoning calendar is a request City of Waukegan for a text amendment to the zoning ordinance now.
I think you should put most of them in the garbage.
Tyler Williams with the City of Waukegan. Add the words engaged in any building, trade, or craft. So the definition will read contractors' yards or building used in or craft. Contractor where vehicles stored.
Already, is there any spec there for maintaining roadways and keeping the neighboring streets clear and asking if there
No, yeah.
No. That would be, I think, enforcement. If someone is dragging the streets, that is enforceable already. A proper use permit. Those are obvious enforcement of the site. Contractor yard is a permitted use only in the district, so that we're meant to know from only in those appropriate sites. But as Tyler noted, the use, not the form of payment, is been
So right now, contractors yard is permitted use in industrial zones.
Yeah.
So only in industrial zones will this be applied to, basically, by businesses.
In non-industrial zone.
Yes.
Okay. That helps, thanks.
Who would like to speak out? Who would like to speak out either?
26.
Item 5.3, the Waukegan zoning ordinance to allow Who's going to be presenting? Mr. Mallard?
Good evening, Commissioners. As always, appreciate your time. And I'm speaking, as we know, Director Kisher-Lepper is out sick. Are at the request of the Commission and following up with the old business item, seeking to extend establishment definition to the B3 zoning district to more accurately define banquet, these event spaces that are, as we saw in the original establishment of this district when it was in the downtown, to create an appropriate category for if a business seeks to do both publicly available and privately available events. And currently there is, as we've noted in the past, there middle ground that we believe is the commission had requested that we continue the item related to a conditional use permit for a nightclub because there was agreement from both the commission, the applicant, as well as residents that they did not want to see a nightclub or were not seeking permit on those other operations where they may not be operating within those clean bounds, as you've noted, where, is a quinceañera place, is a banquet facility, are they complying with what we intended them to comply with? So it is a multi-pronged, you are correct.
Commissioner,
I'm having a really hard time understanding what type of use you're targeting. I mean, what are you trying to promote here, and what are you trying to dissuade?
Capacity of over 150 people. If it's not associated with a private entity, I know that they're using a partnership with the food pantry. Well, that's a private entity, they can do it. Have the private entity, the food pantry, the use would certainly be distinct and separate from a nightclub. But if it's over 100, whether or not they whether or not they have a live entertainment act, technically you should be flagging them as a. Either we need to expand the night options to allow additional days, or we need to create an alternative. So they still have to go through a liquor license process. Did for the downtown. That is grounds by which action can occur. Instances and as with your conditions, you have police calls, things like
Nightclub. If they can serve liquor, I mean.
Sure. I think operation.
Okay, so this does limit the hours of operation?
No, but if through your conditional use, obviously can put those conditions. It's still a conditional use. It's not a permit egress review. They still have to come times of the month. During the planning, listed as 2 times per month. More than that would be triggered. Upon 2 times did not seem to be the correct math either. What was approved in resolution by to say, I believe I'm going to be loose with the of a nightclub. So if it looks like a nightclub, smells like a nightclub, then they can be called back to be enforced and have conditions. Security. And for the to this specific applicant, accommodations for public events that we think might be triggering that is something that hours operation.
So it sounds like you're us to evaluate each.
To allow you the opportunity to place to constrain in a way club definition. Now it's Thursday after 9 p.m. That's the exact opposite of what we want to allow. Happening after 9.
Because it probably could be conceived as both. I mean, I'm just wondering, because there's going to be a trip point.
I don't think it's B3.
I don't think.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's zone B.
Yeah, there's a distinct overseeing casino. That is a distinct category. To your point, and
event gets which hours. I mean, they don't want any of them. That particular suitable. How the location. Neighbors. What people want in their neighborhood.
In certain later on the there is community development committee with city council. We believe that those are still appropriate opportunities for evaluate on individual cases. As always, any conditional use permit, you have the ability to pull back if there are
But
any
what I'm
issues.
saying, you're
Allowed as a conditional use in B3 currently?
Yes, it is. And as you recall, the comments point, Edison Court has been identified by building and code as a place of needing enforcement.
One question as far as, and we're grouping automotive type industries together in this. If I was to say I wanted to open up a chrome plating shop, which has all kinds of toxic properties.
What kind of
and
shop?
Chrome plating, you know, you use chromium and it's very carcinogenic, fumes are bad, it's hard to put out fires. Chrome plating is very dangerous. So I don't know if anybody's got a chrome plating shop, but would there be another provision that would sort of control that or avoid it?
And to that question, I would have to first of all defer to both fire as well as building code. We have been building in rules related to storing chemicals that are used in any of these sites, having layout explanations to fire. Those are conditions of the actual fire and building inspection by the fire marshal and the building commission, or the general rules related to oversight if that requires specific building or.
I believe I read an article in NFPA Journal, which is National Fire Protection Association, and it was basically firemen talking about putting out a chrome plant fire and the caustic capabilities of it and what it can do and everything. And just in the natural process of electrolysis and chrome plating, fumes are generated. And it's not a spray booth that would take care of it. It's really sophisticated equipment. But, you know, there are companies that do that, and I know Chicago has quite a few, and I've just, you know, that's something to keep on your radar anyway.
And certainly to that point, between obviously now and any potential approvals or recommendations, I should say recommendations by this commission, either for approval or denial, we could seek to further understand that both talking with the commissioner, the fire marshal, as well as other municipalities related to that.
I was just thinking because it could be associated with automotive, so, you know.
We appreciate that specific class.
See, something like that wouldn't generate a lot of cars either, which is part of the problem because a lot of the places apply that are former gas stations. And so then there's not really a lot of parking at a former gas station. So then they're parking all over and on the sidewalks and it's totally, you know, wrong for the area. I don't know what the answer is.
And I think that if I might suggest, I think that this commission's acknowledgement of the need for both, yes, we can apply all the conditions, but it is enforcement. It is continued enforcement, and that certainly. Stephen is obviously, he's a one-man army, but he's still only one man. We obviously, and we know that the aldermen and this body are obviously seeking to have those things enforced. So we acknowledge that those are things that the city may not have historically done to the satisfaction of this body, and we obviously need to make that focus.
It's just a problem.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Hintz.
So I guess just to make sure I understand it again, so this lowers the burden on the larger shops, is that right? And that but above 7,500 up to 15, they wouldn't have to come for conditional use? Is that right?
So, and maybe I can put it in a easier to understand.
I have a simple mind, so that's great.
So currently, we say over 15,000 square feet, they are eligible to get a conditional use permit from this body. Under 15,000 square feet, and we've had a number of those applicants. We had a 13,800, a 14.2 at the Belvedere, the 1,300 Belvedere properties. If we just kept it at 15,000 square feet, but made the other adjustment here, those that are over 15,000 would go to DRB. There'd still be the conditions. It would reduce the timeline of that review. We think that the standard conditions that this body has been setting are applicable throughout. We really think that those should be approved as standard. Anyone that has a paint booth has to comply. Everyone that needs to fix their non-hard surface needs to comply. Those things still need to do, but we think that this is an opportunity we can shave off time.
Okay.
To that question then of not only are we moving those over 15,000 to a DRB condition approval, which just shortens the time period, but then those over 7,500, because we think there's a smaller number than 15,000. If this commission believes that the number is different from 7,500, we of course will obviously factor that in, and the council could request that as well.
I guess bigger picture then, does that promote more of these types of businesses though, as we talk about that potentially being a concern? Does it promote more auto body shops in general? Because you're making it easier for them.
Certainly I won't decide for you whether if our argument is cutting down time is business friendly, does that then enable bad actors? If we don't do enforcement, that's particularly an argument. I would say probably neutral. We still need to do the other aspects of the review.
Okay. Is most of our gateways are B3 though, right?
B2 and B3, yes.
So help me with how that would align kind of with the vision of developing those gateways.
So B2 and B3 are different intensity, but B3 is the perfect example, more driving based. We have obviously on Green Bay is maybe the best example of a obviously decent speed moving. Sometimes, as we all know, too much speed moving of the traffic there. But people are driving to those uses, and certainly an auto use is that. On top of that, certainly Belvedere would be a good example where there's a mix of industrial and there's a transition that hasn't fully come to be all commercial use. So I think we're trying to be accurate to the current status. And we also are even considerate of the fact that in the next, pick a number of years, electric vehicles are going to start to make headway in this market, even if it's delayed due to socioeconomics. We believe that will continue to emerge in this market. So there's going to be a natural progression of what those business types are going to be able to accomplish moving forward.
Yeah, maybe where I'm going, I guess, is I think you're telling me you still have some approval levels even with this change through the DRB, which is good. But it feels like you're helping promote these businesses, which we could debate whether is right or wrong. I guess what I'm maybe looking at is more holistically, if that's the corridor to the city that we want to develop, like what other ordinance changes are we doing that will help maybe the businesses that we would want more than maybe an auto body shop that has some challenges. So help me kind of get past that mentally.
Sure. And I think first of all, it starts with I think the easiest example are some of these shops that are already shops. There are lifts in there are drains in there are booths in there. Those are obviously not insignificant expenses, even if to remove them. And when developers are looking for spaces, they're certainly not building, they're not building speculatively. They're looking for spaces that are already available. Mayor and I did a conference recently talking to folks on the exact topic. But furthermore, then, if it's a space that needs to be heavily modified out of the current use, it becomes less likely that that space will be operated. It will have an operating business there. And so while it's not obviously our dream, some auto bodies may not be our dream actors. Certainly there are a number of good auto body actors, and we appreciate them. But there are a number of bad ones. And that said, to modify a business that has those significant amenities already built in, it is as likely in a changing brick and mortar world that those buildings may not be taken on first when there's other vacancies that can be filled. And so this is trying to ensure that we, again, continue to have those conditional safeguards that we can impose, whether the small ones within neighborhoods that certainly need a hard look, that their traffic pattern on a small lot needs a hard look, and this commission may want to retain that. And then the bigger ones that we are seeing, the difference between a 15,000 square foot auto body and a 13,000 square foot auto body, there's some debate there on the difference of footprint, and is it significant enough that we should require a variance? So again, both trying to balance the need for oversight, but also trying to accommodate in having a speedy business process when we think that there are conditions that can be applied across the board.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, is there anybody else here who would like to speak out concerning this request? In that case, I'd like to ask for a motion. Do we have a motion to recommend approval or denial of this request?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept ZC 2681 for the...
Motion to recommend approval?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Haug. Any further discussion on this motion? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Haug,
Yes.
Grimes.
He left.
I'm sorry, what was that?
He left.
Commissioner Grimes is not present. Oh, yeah, he did say he had to leave at 8 o'clock. I didn't even notice he had left.
Griffin,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Ince,
No.
Rivera,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes, motion carries. And just for the record, we still have a quorum, even with Commissioner Grimes not here. Okay. Going back to old business. Old business item 4.1, zoning calendar number 2677, which is a request by the petitioner Stephen Hoffman, Tebow Properties LLLP at Ali, and for conditional use permit for a nightclub, Category 1, for the location known as 4555 West York House Road. Now, you made your full presentation last meeting, but I believe we have two commissioners that were not here last time. And I think we all need to have our memories refreshed and maybe have some things clarified. So we'd like you to come up and make a brief presentation, if you would.
Chair, if I could.
Yes.
Just to remind everybody, last meeting, there was some discussion as to this application as a nightclub meeting. There was also discussion as to continuing this in order for applicant to change or amend their application to reflect a multi-purpose use instead of the nightclub use. And it was for that reason that this was continued. Notice was actual, and that's just setting the table for why we are here and what has changed.
Okay, what I'd like to do is to swear you all in. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, and as you speak, please state your names, and before you leave, please write your names on the pad so that we have record of everybody. Okay?
Sure. Steve Hoffman, I'm the owner or the tenant of the property. And when this all began, it was several months ago, and we were simply looking to expand some of the things that we were doing in our restaurant into a larger space within our leased property. When we came for a permit and we were told that we fit under a category of nightclub, or this permit did, my immediate reaction was, that's not what we want. That is not the idea. That's not the thing that we're attempting to accomplish here. But I was informed that that was the appropriate designation. Obviously, with that being the case, there's some objection to it, and I'm going to say understandably, given the history and so forth of the property. But as I said, it was never what we intended. We're simply looking to expand on the sorts of activities that we've already done within our restaurant space. We do events 4 or 5 nights a week, whether it's bingo or whether it's a magician. We have families that come in. We're not looking to have a nightclub. We're not looking for late night hours. We're not looking for anything that is going to change the character of our space and will be compatible with the types of banquets and ceremonies that we currently offer. So when I was here last time, it was suggested that we wouldn't do well if this were held, if a vote were held last time, and you had asked if we would be amenable to waiting till this text amendment came into play, which would give a more appropriate designation for the type of activities that we want, and we agreed, and that's why we're here tonight. And look, we don't want any problems with our neighbors or the community at large or our other customers. We want to do the right thing, and if that involves certain conditions, we're happy to talk about those so that everybody's in agreement about this.
Mr. Howard.
Liquor, no liquor, and how late at night?
Are you asking me what our preference is for?
How are you going to operate the facility? Are you going to serve liquor at your events?
So we plan different things. Some of those things are children only. Some of those things are family oriented. Some of them are adult oriented. And I would think that within our current licensing, we'd be able to determine that on an event by event basis.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
Okay, and how late are you planning on staying open for some of these events?
I'm not sure that we've actually discussed that. It is certainly not 2 o'clock in the morning, but I would guess it would be somewhere between 9 and 11.
Okay. Can we get that written into the special use permit? Because I understand the neighbors, they want people, doing things in their backyard at 2 in the morning.
Understood.
Yeah, our current event, I'm Stephanie Ibrondo, and our current events that we have there for parties and such end at midnight.
Okay.
So I don't sell past that.
On weekdays too?
So what we are planning on doing is having like a karaoke on Fridays and a band on Saturdays.
Okay, answer my
So-
question. Weekdays too?
No, I mean, I don't think we would need to go that late on weekdays.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it's different for weekdays, then that's fine.
I think that needs to be clarified, frankly.
Sure.
And Commissioner Haug, if I may, this commission is empowered to, as part of its recommendations, if it should approve this, include whatever conditions that it sees fit as it relates to the multi-purpose use. And so if you wish to dictate hours and days, regardless of whether they agree or not, that is how it will be in the conditional use. If passed by City Council, then any violation of those conditions approved by council, would become enforcement actions.
Well, and that's what I think we're implying by the text amendment we made, right? It gives us that flexibility to make these restrictions, and I guess that's something I think that would be important if I lived next to a facility like this. I wouldn't want that place to be open at 2 in the morning, regardless of what you're doing. So I would say let's make the restrictions right now, Friday, Saturday night, midnight, and then during the week, 10 o'clock? Sure. Okay. Can we get that written in as part of the conditions? Okay.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? Since I missed the presentation last time, you said that you weren't trying to do a nightclub. That wasn't what you were trying to do. I certainly read your definition of what you said you were going to do. You started with family events and bingo, I know, but then I heard you say karaoke and some other things. So give me a 2-minute description of what this will be like. Or as long as you want, but...
She could fill 2 minutes.
So sorry. So I'm in sales, so what we wanted to have was something that would help us kind of get through winter months when we've not got a lot of banquets going on, not a lot of people get married during the colder months. So it would kind of help us keep our employees that are currently there working, but also making money for us as a business as a whole. So having karaoke nights and bands seems like it would be nice to have for the community. We have the restaurant downstairs, which we do a bingo night. We have trivia on Tuesdays, and a comedy open mic on Thursdays, and a fish fry with live music in the restaurant downstairs. So this would just be an extension of this. We weren't looking to maybe, have a bar open 7 days a week upstairs. It would just be for those kind of special events that we would host. So
you're allowed to do that now based on your permit, and maybe that's more of a city question, but
yeah, in the restaurant.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
because it's under 150? Or
It is.
so this would allow, or 150 is the requirement for nightclub. So there is no restriction in the new text amendment that we put in, but we would have to put a condition in. Is that right? Sorry, I'm probably jumping to city, and maybe we should wait.
This actually has, this is additionally tight over in terms of conditional review versus a nightclub. Under 150 people at a nightclub, whether or not there's food or not are the two different categories. Those locations go to DRB. So anything that is a banquet, essentially offering both public and private events, comes through this full body. A nightclub, as the rules currently stand, under 150 person capacity, that are only public, not public and private, go through DRB. So yeah, that's part of the bigger challenge.
The current restrictions don't allow public events, or am I wrong?
Yes, for a banquet facility does not allow public events in the 150 plus space without this conditional use, or without a nightclub conditional use, or in this case, in any space regardless of capacity, 150 or not, under this multi-use, multi-purpose entertainment establishment, multi-purpose entertainment establishment, all uses come through this body.
So if I look at your Facebook page, which I did, and I see like comedy shows from September, and I see some type of dinner and an entertainer in June, those were private events then?
We were told that we could have those type of events if the tickets were sold prior to, I think it was 6 hours prior, so we cut the tickets off at noon that day, and also didn't have music in that event space. So as they ate, they sat in silence. So
Okay.
that's how it was. And the capacity of Yorkies is 200. So we're not talking about a vastly, huge crowd. It is capped at 200.
Yeah, I guess, go ahead, no, go ahead, please.
Just to address your question, this might clarify a bit. I'm going to read the definition for banquet facility.
Thanks.
It's an establishment used regularly for serving food and beverages to groups that, before the day of the event, have reserved the facility for banquets or meetings. The general public is not admitted, and there is no admission charge at the door. Live entertainment may be featured as an accessory to the banquet or meeting use. Banquet facility is not a restaurant or a bar, and so conceivably, I'm not sure who they spoke with, but I think what they were whoever spoke to them was focusing on the admission at the door part in the pre-sales.
Okay. Help me with the concern on the space next to it being a assisted living facility and why your facility fits well next to that space, which is something we've already recommended approval for.
Right, I think we've talked about, I know you weren't at the last
sorry.
meeting. Right. If you're familiar with the building.
I am.
Okay, so this exists in one room within our portion of that building. That's all we're talking about. It's deep in the middle of our entire space. It would be indistinguishable from any of the other events that we have every week there that are private. And this just happens to be open to the public. It's the same, if not less raucous by a large measure than some of the events that happen when you have private parties and people feel a greater latitude in their behavior. So I think it's indistinguishable and almost invisible to whether it's residents or visitors or what have you to the assisted living when that comes into being.
Okay.
Commissioner Bill.
Steve, in our last meeting, you had mentioned, and we've heard from residents and stuff like that, that the facility, the parking lot and signs are a little bit sketchy, and it sort of drags the community down. And one of the conditions, I think, is to keep it with ordinances now. I think your argument before was you don't own the entire envelope.
Right.
So can some kind of agreement, or are you just going to take that over? Or can the local residents to hold you to the fire as to saying it will be cleaned up?
We're in agreement about that. First of all, a large part of that, and I'm not, if any of this responsibility is ours, then it's ours, but it's also the fact that we're directly behind what's been a construction site for about a year and a half.
Okay.
And you know, and a lot of the complaints that we hear are about the same thing that you're talking about. It's not our parking lot that all of that debris and all of that mess impacts. Yes, we are working on signage. That was brought up, and we do have an agreement between 3 tenants, and Stephanie can tell you.
Yeah, I spoke with Arjun and Dave. He's the owner of the golf course, and so we're splitting the new signs 3 ways. So the one on the corner is going to be new, and then the one when you come in, that's Mid-Lane's property, like that area right there. So we're all splitting that cost 3 ways to get a new sign there, a new directional sign as well. So all of that will be new. We're going through Arjun. He's the owner of the senior living because he's got the architect and everything. So as soon as they were hoping to have it for me tonight, but they didn't have it in time. So as soon as we get that, we'll be doing that. Also, I talked to Dave today in the office. He came by, and so part of our contract that we have with him, we provide the bev cart for the golf course, and they do the landscaping. So we told him today that this year, what the landscaping was not up to par. There were a lot of weeds. There were no flowers, that sort of thing. So he said that. He told Matt and I that next year he'll be more on it. So, so all of that landscaping is Mid-Lane's responsibility. So it will be kept up next year because we'll be on top of it.
And one last question. I noticed last time we mentioned the fact that there were some police calls that were on the property, and I think there was 14. We've got a listing of them. And you might not be aware of them because it could have been something in the parking lot, or who knows. You know, some of them are fairly severe, but I think any restaurant or anything like that is going to have a few calls once in a while. So I'm not condemning you for that, but overall security for the outside, did we address that? Just refresh my memory if we did.
We did, and we've been talking to a security company. We have a contract in place, and we expect to have officers on place or whatever they determine is the appropriate level of security for whatever particular event we have going on. So yes.
So it'd be per event?
Yes.
That would be, yeah. Now, if it was a private party, would there also be protection, or would that, you'd have to build that in the cost of the event then?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also do want to add that we're getting all new LEDs in the parking lot. So they're in the process now of changing all of the ones inside,
Lighting?
but also outside, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I guess it's kind of a comment, but maybe it's a comment that you could respond to if you want to. You know, I think we have to look at, is it detrimental to the public safety? Does it fit in the environment that's around it? That's part of what we're chartered to look at. And I think it bothers me a little bit to read your application and see up front family events and bingo night, and then go on your Facebook page and see, you know, what looks like more adult comedy, and not hear you say either of those things when I asked you what you were going to do, and that just makes me question a little bit, you know, what actually is going to go on there. So that's my concern. I'm expressing it as a concern or a comment. You can comment to it if you want, or you don't have to.
My thing for that, and the reason why I didn't mention that is because we can already do that. So the reason why I didn't mention it is because that the things that we wanted to have was the karaoke and the band up there. So that's why. I'm sorry.
No, just thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, is there anybody else here who would like to comment? Yes, I figured you would, Ms. Lugan.
For the record.
Okay, since you commented on this prior to being sworn in, how do we phrase this?
Do you wish to incorporate those previous comments into your testimony as sworn comments? Or do you not wish for what
comments?
I would like those comments that I said in public comment to be in consideration with what I say now.
Then the chair will ask you to swear that your comments given during public comment are the truth.
Yes.
I'm going to swear you in again, okay?
Okay, sure.
Do you swear that the comments that you made earlier in public comment time, plus any testimony you're about to give now, is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I think in listening to some of this, it would be clear to back up as to where this all started. So, to be clear, Encore has an event space for private events. They have a restaurant, and they have a vacant space upstairs that they refer to as Yorkies, which also in their application, the original application is referred to as the Cove. So we're talking about the same place, right? So the Cove, or the Yorkies, I'm sorry, has not ever been in use. There was no restaurant permit in that area. There was no, to my knowledge, a private, like the areas are distinguished as they've mentioned here. There was a posting on Facebook several months ago, and I tried to look to find it, that said, hey, we're having an entertainer coming in, and it was a music entertainer. Tickets are available for purchase. Now, I live close, so I saw this. I'm in their demographics, and that was what caught my attention. So I did reach out to law enforcement and said, hey, they want to charge entry to the public. So if they're charging entry to the public in a space that I don't think that that's the proper use, am I right or am I wrong? It was my understanding that was not correct. I was told then that the police department went and spoke with them. That is what triggered all of this. Otherwise, there was just an intent to go ahead and start using this as a public access venue, just to lay some of the groundwork. All right, so what I said earlier in the public comment still applies. A couple things came up that really just wanted me, felt I needed to come back up here. So Thomas did say earlier that, we're gonna go and keep an eye out that it's not the essence of a nightclub. That is 100% subjective. What is the essence of a nightclub? What it is for you, what it is for me, they're totally different things. So we're talking about approving a conditional use permit, which, by the way, you still have on the board because it's held over as old business. That's what's gonna be approved is a Category 1 nightclub. I don't see another thing on here to approve it as a conditional use permit. So if it's approved tonight, it's approved as a Category 1 nightclub with all of the flexibility of a nightclub. They say they don't want to do that, but what they've done in time has changed. I also want to remind you too that they recently added slot machines to the restaurant. So now we're going to open this up. The restaurant is public, I get it, but it's a restaurant. You come in, you go to the restaurant, you don't charge entry, you don't dance, you don't, and I'll be frank, I go to this restaurant, it's walking distance from my house, I enjoy it, the food is good, service is good, the people are good, I like it. So I see what they're doing. It's the concern that they're now going to open this up to an event that's going to have flexibility of a nightclub. And even if we do agree to a conditional use permit, commissioners, you're agreeing to conditional use permit without knowing what the conditions are going to be, without knowing what they're going to agree to the conditions to be. So I ask that you consider that when you vote for this as well. There have been times, so I can see the venue from my house. And I'll be quite frank, there are times that I sit out on my patio and I enjoy watching the drunk people walk along the golf course. Now there is ponds and water there too. There's not security. There have been a couple events where the music has been way beyond a noise ordinance, what the noise ordinance allows. I've called for the police. The police have not been able to respond because the noise ordinance in Mid-Lane does not serve priority to the rest of the city of Waukegan. And I understand that. We're all stretched. I've listened to what Commissioner Griffin has said in regards to code enforcement needing to be on several things that have come before you today in general in the city of Waukegan. Several of you, I believe, agreed with that. Code enforcement is stretched, but code enforcement also works Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 or 7 to 4, whatever the hours are here. My point is it is not in conjunction with the times that this is going to want to run, even if they open at 6 o'clock to do these events. So code enforcement's not available. The City of Waukegan Police Department is stretched real thin, and violations that happen, unless it becomes something dangerous with a resident of the assisted living facility, that will bump up in priority. But noise ordinances, lines that are too long, because I did read that was part of it, that go out the property, that's not going to get the police here, and I understand that. It's not their business to, it is their business to come, but the priorities is not there, right? So I do look at the petition that we have here that was on board docs. Like I said, I did not see one that was updated. That was me looking on board docs. So I am referencing the original one when I talked about the nightclub on there. But I also want to say on the petition dated July on page number 4, they talk about bingo, as you referenced. They talk about, kid events, and then they also talk about adult experiences on the weekend. Again, that's for question. And then also on there, it says improved outdoor socializing areas. Well, even your nightclub ordinance says all events have to be held, all activity has to be held inside. There is no outside gathering. So this is all on the petition. The difference, I've heard the applicants say that there is no difference from what they're doing now to what they want to do. I beg to differ. A restaurant, there's no difference. Yes, they do have bingo in there. They give away 20% off of their dish. It's not money involved. But now, with the recent addition of the slot machines and wanting to open an event that's open to a public, there's zero accountability of who's coming in and out of that door. And so my concern and how that differs is, again, from what I stated earlier, you have a private event, you have a wedding, there's a guest list, there's people that are invited. You have a gala, a banquet, there's a guest list, you know who's invited. You open up a multi-use, multi-purpose entertainment center, you have anybody coming in and out for whatever times is going to be decided beyond your control if you approve this, because it's already been approved. And we're not going to know who they are. They're slot machines. And again, I'm going to go back to the fact that the health and well-being of the neighboring community, my biggest concern is the fact that this was approved to become assisted living, and that is who the closest neighbors are. I'm going to say I'm the third closest in regards to that, but as somebody who is, as I mentioned earlier, understands and appreciates and the concept of being business friendly and keeping the neighborhood in mind, I would like for you to consider how all of this and the bigger picture of what could become. Because if it's approved, what happens today, what happens this year is one thing, but as they try and get more money, as they said that's what they want to do, that can morph. And if you've allowed it with this multi-purpose event to be open to the public. So they did mention that the parking lot and how it looks good. It doesn't look right. The residents understand that the building is under construction. The parking lot is not something that is a concern. It's the handwritten signs that are folded over in the right of way. It's the tacked up signs, which I understand you say that you're gonna take care of, and I appreciate that. I would ask that you remove what's laying on the ground now. But these are just some of the concerns that we have of again, I'm gonna go back to saying what it is right now, what's being proposed right now, and they don't want those types of events, and what it possibly could be allowed to become if it's approved are totally different. So I ask the commission to keep that in mind as you consider if this is something that is for the betterment, well-being, health, and safety of the neighborhood. I say thank you for listening to all of my comments this evening, but I do ask that you don't approve the permit. But I do ask that you don't approve the permit, especially the nightclub that's on the board, that's on the docket. And then I also ask that you don't approve it with a condition without knowing what the conditions are. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go any further, I've been sitting here all night, assuming that this projector was on because somebody was going to use it for presentation, and it's just been shining in my eyes. Could we turn it off? Apparently nobody's going to use it, okay? Oh, thank you. Okay. Commissioners have any question of the of Ms. Luca? Or comments? No? Okay. City staff, I'd like to hear your up-to-the-minute recommendations.
Sure, absolutely. As all of you know, as city staff have to review what is presented to us. And those are the conditions, obviously, as well as the history that we have to take into factor in. I want to start by asking legal if they can to explain why this item, because to our desire is to not be presented to council as a request for a nightclub. We are seeking to request it to be a conditional use permit for a multi-purpose entertainment establishment with the conditions you seek, but why we were not able to put that on the agenda to list that way for the discussion of transparency, and why the conditions don't read for that use. I know that there was some guidance that led us to that, to obviously in the fairness to the public.
So if I'm understanding your first question, just why it was ordered the way it was on the agenda? Sure.
Yes, please.
So to be clear, the way that the agenda is structured is set in the rules of procedure of this commission. And so to deviate from the way it is structured would require an amendment to the rules of procedure itself. That being said, old business precedes new business. Pursuant to the rules of procedure, we called old business, we held it over until the completion of new business, and so we did adhere to the rules as set by this commission. Does that answer your first question?
And just for clarity, I'm actually looking for just confirmation that we were not able to list old business as a conditional use permit for a multi-purpose entertainment establishment coming into this, although that is the desire of staff from a recommendation, and that is what we are hoping for to be the recommendation moving forward. We are not looking for a recommendation related to nightclub based on the public feedback, based on the feedback of the applicant. There was, nonetheless, it still reads as application for a nightclub, which is not our goal, and that, I know that was based on legal guidance, but if you might opine on that.
So, if I'm understanding what you're saying, the notice that went out was the discussion at the last hearing, where I believe the staff or the petitioners indicated an intent to reconfigure or to amend the application to reflect a new use. I don't think I advised you to keep the language as it was. However, what I'm saying is that the notice was actual at the time of the last hearing, that the application would reflect this new use, this multi-purpose use, and not the previous use.
So for, again, just to create clarity, is it appropriate for this commission, if they so chose, to amend it to be a conditional use permit for a multi-purpose? How do we get, I want to just explain to the public and to everyone how we get from a conditional use permit request for a nightclub to now the recommended permitted multi-purpose entertainment establishment, to first button up that issue, which is that none of us are seeking a nightclub through the discussion of tonight.
And certainly for purposes of clarity, I wish it would have been done previous to this. However, if it is being amended right now, I think that's appropriate, considering that notice was provided of the amendment at the last meeting. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and certainly, staff apologize if there was any opportunity to have resolved that coming into this. That's certainly not our goal. We want transparency. So, again, not seeking approval for a nightclub. Our recommendation was maybe based on a little bit of misunderstanding there, but would be hoping based on an amended conditional use permit application. So I think that's number one I wanted to clarify. Number two, is certainly when it comes to security, we have built requirements into that. Again, I believe that they have attached their security plans to this item. That is something that we would insist upon. In terms of maintenance, there are conditions that are included as an attachment, and that includes maintenance of property. What number? Do we know that? Do we know what number that is? Number 5, building code. So certainly maintenance of property is expected to be part of this. But of course, as always, any issues like this, we certainly can and do seek additional enforcement if there are obviously noted issues, complaints, and et cetera. And certainly we will have that conversation with building regarding conditions as they currently exist and any non-compliance. We don't have to wait for enforcement of the decision on this. Noise. In terms of noise, we do have built-in RA conditions related to that we've added related to noise or music associated with the establishment audible from the exterior of the building. If for additional consideration, this body desires to amend that to also say noise audible from the interior, from the senior living. That's certainly clarity that could be sought. Again, it reads currently, no noise or music associated with the amusement establishment shall be audible from the exterior of the building. Our intention is exterior of this Yorkie's property, not that it's not bleeding out into others. So there is some, as has been noted, the attached building space is actually part of a separate parcel line from the GIS, the PIN line. But to make it clear that that is also a place that would be, they would need to comply with the noise impact. That certainly is an adjustment that we could incorporate here to further make this a site-specific consideration for those individuals. And noncompliance, again, could force them back here, as well as revocation of a conditional use permit. In terms of hours, I noted before when we talked about text amendment, and we've been able to communicate a little with the director, Noel, and certainly we would request from this body to set a time for end of operations.
We already did.
So what time was that we are?
10 o'clock on weekdays, 12
Perfect.
o'clock Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So we appreciate that, and that is consistent with the staff's request as well, to make sure that we are not dealing, to at least build in controls that are easily identifiable, which is, isn't from an outside identifying whether an event is open to the public or private, short of you walking up there and seeking to enter, right? An easier review in this instance may be to incorporate those definitive closing hours. So we appreciate that. In terms of the police call list, at your request, we had asked neighborhood policing to pull a call run. So I know we've provided that. That is about a year and a half of data between October 1st of 2022 to March of 2021, some of which traffic accident as an example is, there are other aspects incorporated. There are 2 noise complaints that I will note for the record, but at your request, we did want to provide that, and obviously PD can further opine on that to the council if they seek. In terms of the conditions, without question, we would demand, or we would request that there are conditions applied. So to that question of what was attached to today's meeting, hopefully legal counsel's explanation helps explain that, but we are seeking those conditions that are attached in the staff memo, even with a different category title at the top. We are still seeking those conditions to be applied, and again, with the additional consideration for hours and if there's any desire for noise. And then in terms of events outside, as always, they are currently held to the rules that they are not supposed to have events outside of the facility. That is a trigger for review. That is a trigger for revocation or review for possible revocation under even their current license. So that alone is grounds to come back here. To your point, we understand and appreciate that that people understand the burden that our PD are facing in terms of resource shortages, and so that may not get resolved that night. It is obviously a vital tool, any of these complaints that are placed for our sake, to also then still be able to have that record. Videos, we also encourage that, and we appreciate the robust debate on this. We're not trying to be obtuse to the dynamic and different uses in this space. It is something that staff are trying to be mindful of, both resident desires, business desires, what has been put in writing versus what will be practice. Obviously, we're trying to give our best narration of that and mediation of that application request.
Any other comments or questions from commissioners?
One question from me, Chairman. So if I read one of the conditions is to meet a sign ordinance as well, is that accurate? And I don't know that I know what the sign code is. Could you tell me what the sign code is based on the resident's complaint?
And we apologize. Noel is more of the sign code expert as well as building. Those do get submitted through the building department permit portal for sign. They do have to meet zoning, obviously, specifications, but temporary signage is not permitted. Those are enforceable through code. Stephen would be that category. any conditional use that has been brought up since he has been in that role gets entered by him and becomes part of his circuit of review. So we may not have all of the legacy ones to the point of all the banquet facilities, but anyone that comes to this body does get highlighted and does stay in an ongoing review list.
Mr. Griffin?
I understand there's to be an amendment. Can we get some help from the attorney how to make this motion?
If I'm understanding what you mean by amendment, the additional conditions?
Can't we just recommend approval with the stated conditions?
We can certainly do that.
Hour restrictions and everything that Tom said, just run it that way.
Are you talking about an amendment to what they're actually requesting?
Well, they had it as a nightclub.
Right.
They don't want that to go on.
No, we're gonna recommend it
So we're
as
going to make a different
multi-use.
recommendation.
Let's just get something going here.
Yeah.
So the item,
I'm tired.
as
Sure, I wanna
reflected,
go home.
the motion, if it were to be for approval, would be a motion to recommend approval for a multi-purpose use subject to the conditions as delineated by staff tonight. That would be sufficient,
Including the hour restrictions, yes.
including the hour restrictions. And
That is my recommendation, okay, for approval, okay?
I'll
Can we just
second
say
that.
that?
so that's,
You're making a motion now?
Yes, I am.
And I'll second.
Okay, please repeat your motion.
I can, he said
Okay,
it.
so
You said it, okay.
Really?
so the motion, should you wish to adopt it, is a motion to recommend approval of a multi-purpose use subject to the conditions as outlined by staff tonight, including hours and as well as the sound conditions as described by Mr. Mylard. Is that your motion?
That is my motion. I'm gonna stick by it.
We have a motion on the floor and a second by Commissioner Griffin. Any further discussion on this motion? I would like to make a comment. I haven't said anything so far, but, you know, I live in downtown Waukegan, right on the corner of Grand and Genesee. Lived there for 32 years. Recently, we approved a multi-purpose business at the other end of my block. And when they have their events, it is unbearable being there. Their events spill out into the street, mobs of people milling around, drinking, using all kinds of foul language, vehicles with, I'm not talking about a normal sound system. I'm talking about vehicles with professional music, sound systems, blaring music that I don't appreciate. It's not my kind of music to begin with. And then you can hear it 2 or 3 blocks away. It's so loud. Cars, squealing tires, and these are all things that were not supposed to be permitted under the conditional use permit, I guess, that they got, but it's happening anyway. I know the events are not supposed to spill out into the street. I haven't called the police. I live right at the end of the block, and I have an apartment building right next to me that has 16 units, and the people sometimes are in fear. And I only called the police one time when it was just, the sound of that music was so loud that couldn't focus on anything else because you hear it. It's just rattling our walls. And I have a solid building. Doesn't rattle easily. Call the police department, non-emergency number, just to ask them, is there anything that can be done about this noise? And they tell me, well, the noise ordinance doesn't start until what time? 10, 10:30, I don't know. It was before the time that the noise ordinance took effect. So I didn't really lodge a formal complaint, but I did inquire. And I just wonder about the advisability of having a business of that nature in a residential area, assisted living facility, what could go wrong? I just worry about that. I just don't know what kind of plans are going to be made to control that and keep that from happening. And, you can't control mobs of people. And as you said, the police aren't going to respond. So I just wonder, what are the chances that something like that could get very seriously out of control and cause serious disturbance to people in the assisted living facility and people in neighboring areas? I'm just very concerned. So those are my thoughts.
Chair, in answer to your question about noise, it's set forth in Section 1132 of the Waukegan Code of Ordinances. It's broken down by whether a district is residential, commercial, and industrial, but either way, decibel control begins at 10 p.m. and goes until 7 a.m. In addition to that, there is, I'm not sure what was on the conditional use permit, what kind of conditions, but there is another avenue of control. Liquor licensees are required to maintain a peaceful and orderly business premises. This is in Section 3-24A. Establishments are required to control or prohibit criminal activity, not just at their premises, but adjacent property as well. And so this is something that can be handled multiple ways, and I can certainly connect with enforcement, connect with Noel, and see what's happening at that other location.
Commissioner, if I may, and Mr. Chairman, to the concern with the other multi-purpose entertainment establishment, based on the recent notification, staff have requested from neighborhood police a call run. We'll be bringing that item back to this dais for review related to those police calls related to the operation of that. So we, to your observed conditions, we are calling that back for further review. So we agree with you that those sort of things are what this is intended to catch, root, and prevent. Or if someone falls outside of those conditions, come back here for, possible review.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, it's in every neighborhood. I've got neighbors that have music and parties, and you can't even live through it. So, but I don't understand that this is a district. This is one building, right? They have one area of mid-lane that they're going to have multi-purpose entertainment. And to be fair, mid-lane was there before the houses.
Any other comments?
Just a quick comment for me. I think I struggle a little bit that I feel the small business' pain of trying to get through the winter, but this really just doesn't feel like the right use in the area for me. So I'm not sure I can support it. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Any other comments? We have a motion and a second, correct?
We do.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Haug?
Yes.
Grimes? Oh, I'm sorry. Griffin?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Ince?
No.
Rivera?
No.
Rodriguez?
No.
Okay. That's 3-3, motion fails. Yes, motion fails.
So this, I just want to point out to you, we are just a recommending body. We do not make the decision on this. The decision is going to The decision rests with city council, okay? I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that this will go to the committee, what is it called, the community development committee? With a, it'll still go to them, but without a recommendation, is that correct?
Well, does the commission wish to, and I don't know if there would be any point to this, provide a vote recommending denial, or would the commission just prefer to?
Well, that wouldn't pass either.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a three.
So-
Still be deadlocked.
In that case, there would just be no recommendation.
It would be just no recommendation. So this doesn't mean that your request failed, okay? We have two purposes. We're charged with two purposes, this commission. One is to provide a fair public hearing, to give you a chance to present your request and to give the community an opportunity to weigh in, to support, to oppose, to voice their concerns, so forth, okay? That's the number one purpose. Second purpose is for us to actually make a recommendation to city council. They're the ones that make the decision. So this does not mean that your request fails, okay? It still has to go to city council. Even if it were to have been recommended for approval by this body, that doesn't mean that city council would approve it anyway. Okay, they don't necessarily go by what we say or what we recommend. They have their own minds, their own positions, their own ideas, and they will make the decision that they feel is correct, regardless of what we say. So I just wanted you to understand that. Okay, so the next step in the process will be first Monday in November, which is the 7th?
Yeah, November 7th and then the 21st for full city council consideration, assuming it moves past past the committee, or there isn't a holdover or something of that sort.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, informational items. I don't believe, do we have any? No informational items? And
Just to reiterate, and I had intended to bring it up during that, you brought it up during the last item. We do intend to bring the multi-purpose entertainment establishment in the downtown back for review, especially that call log. So per observed conditions there, we are going to bring that back for review by this bite.
Also, for testimony that there is concern about that Edison Court area, and that was in your,
Yes, and that has been identified, the number of
that
entities.
needs to go to code right away.
Right, the number of entities along that western portion of Edison, it continues to be conditions that are not appropriate.
thank you very much. Okay, then I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
Motion by Commissioner Bill,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hintz. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Wow, this was a record-breaking